I am Jadon, Golden Dragon of the third arc of consciousness, and this is a message from the dragon. Today's message, Dragon Healing, Part 2. Dear ones, in Part 1 we explored how there are many layers and levels to our beingness, a greater beingness than anyone in the 3D and 4D densities can possibly be aware of. And, dear ones, there are causes for anything that happens in this your life, whether that be an illness or an accident or something beneficial or wonderful, even miracles. There are deeper causes within your greater beingness that you will maybe never become aware of at this level. And if you do become aware of these causes at this level, they will most likely be understandings you have months, perhaps even years later. So the takeaway from Part 1 is to trust. Trust in your own greater beingness. Some call it a higher self. Some call it God. Guides, ancestors, whatever resonates for you, trust that there is a loving part of your greater beingness that is guiding anything that happens in your life. Once you have this awareness that we have explored in Part 1, Part 2 of this healing process is to feel it, to be one with the situation. Dear ones, when something happens, when there is an injury and there is pain, or there is disease or affliction and there is discomfort, pain, body processes not behaving as they should, it is so often the case that we fight against it, that we rebel against it, we are frustrated about the situation, we do not accept it. There is a difference between accepting the situation and experiencing and observing and feeling into the situation. Even if the takeaway is, I am going to get better, I am going to heal from this, I am going to restore my health, my beingness, even if that is your intent, which it should be, dear ones, this is different from experiencing and feeling into what is going on. So Part 2 is, if you have something that you wish to heal, look at it, really feel it, really experience it. Let us take an example of a broken bone. You have broken your wrist, and it hurts every time you move that arm. You feel into the situation of how it limits you. All these things you could have done and would be doing that you cannot do now that your wrist is injured. So there is a sense of loss of freedom, a sense of restriction, limitation. And this will very naturally turn into a sense of frustration, fighting against the situation, or sort of a victim mentality. Why do these things happen to me? This is so terrible. Dear ones, when you fall into this kind of thinking and experience, you are taking your power away. When you go into a victim mode, you are not in power. You are just a victim. Somebody who's had their own power taken away from them. Dear ones, when you do this, you give away your power. So instead of looking at this situation as horrible or terrible or something to be rejected, turn your attention towards it for a moment. Feel the pain of this broken wrist. Feel the experience of not being able to do all the things you would do if both arms were working properly. Feel into all of the experiences surrounding having a broken wrist. We can use this and substitute whatever you are going through, from emotional damage to mental issues to cancer to chronic illness. Any of these you can look at the same way. Turn and look at it. Look at what it has done for you and to you. So, how has my life changed since this has happened? How indeed has it changed? Look beyond just the pain, just the discomfort, and look into the shift in your life that happened because of this illness or injury, or whatever it is you wish to be healed of, even a broken heart, dear ones. Look into how your life has changed. It will be very easy to look at the negative changes. It will be very obvious to see how these things have limited you. It will be very obvious to see how much pain and suffering it has caused you. But what is not quite as obvious and only happens when you look is how it has changed something perhaps for the better. Perhaps there is a silver lining to this dark cloud. And what, dear ones, might that silver lining be? Feel into it, dear ones. And if you do this properly, a certain part of you will actually be grateful that this has happened. I know this is hard to understand, hard to grasp, hard to believe if you're in great pain. In severe situations where one has lost their ability to even function. They are in a wheelchair, perhaps they have lost limbs, perhaps paralyzed, perhaps a neurological disorder has them disabled to the point where they cannot function as they once did, or as what somebody would consider to be a normal human can do. It may be very hard for you, dear ones, to find something to be grateful for in this. But if you look closely enough, dear ones, there will be a gift in it. There will be more than one gift, most likely. Something that your greater beingness charted in to reset things, to re-vector you, perhaps to turn you towards spirituality, perhaps to give you a greater compassion for humans around you who are also suffering. There is almost always a gift in it. Perhaps there is always a gift in it. Your Helen Keller, a beautiful spirit, who agreed to come and be in a body that could not see or hear. Can you imagine this, dear ones? You cannot see or hear since childhood. She finally was able to communicate with others through a type of sign language. And the wisdom in her soul finally found a way to come out and come through. And she very famously said, "When one door closes, another opens." But so often we look at the door that has closed that we miss the one that has opened. That is deep wisdom, dear ones. And part of the reason she came into this seemingly broken body, to be understood in a greater fullness by people on a deeper emotional level, that wisdom came through her in a way it could not have had she not lived her life the way she did. A great gift indeed for humanity, and a great gift for you right now as you look at your suffering, at the things that you wish to heal, the situations, the afflictions, maybe the broken heart. Even if you just wish to heal your bank account, dear ones, these words are important. When one door closes, another opens. Feel into that, dear ones. Look for the door that has opened. I think that many of you light workers know that your greater self was just waiting for you to get it. was just waiting for you to understand why this has happened. And once you have gotten the lesson, healing can come much easier, dear ones. For it is appropriate once the lesson has been learned. There is no more need for the suffering. There is no more need for the sacrifice, unless there is a deeper lesson still waiting in the wings. This is part 2, understanding that there is a greater purpose at work here. Nothing happens by accident. Not one of you is indeed truly a victim. These experiences have been charted in by a greater part of your beingness. And, dear ones, there's more. You can be even creative with experiences, understandings, and wisdom that you can glean from whatever your experience has been. You can use your experience to help others. You can turn this horrible situation into a grand opportunity of some sort. There is always a way, dear ones. Indeed, in the end, this silver lining on this big dark cloud may end up being just one big silver cloud. It is time to rethink anything that you feel has happened to you. Get your mind out of the way. Stop thinking you are a victim, and feel into what your greater self is really doing here. Healing is an understatement for what will happen if you can do this. I am Jadon Say, in love with your greater understandings, your emotional intelligence, and the wisdom that follows.